Thank you everyone for coming. Feel free to take some food. First of all, I want to thank Usher Rosenbaum. Thank you so much for helping arrange this chashuv of a guest over here, Harav Hagaon Yitzchok, caplan, one of the chashuv Magidei Shirim, Rish Chabura is in the near Yerushalayim. It's a big schus to have him in Hollywood. And thank you to Mr. Amina for sponsoring today's breakfast. A mazel tov for a new granddaughter. Okay, without further ado, we'll have a shir.
Shlita, it's a schus to be here. I don't think I was ever in Hollywood, Florida. I think the last time I was in Florida was...
It's mashma that you were in Hollywood, LA.
I was. I think the last time I was in Florida was 42 years ago. Since then I haven't been here, but it's fascinating to see a kernel in Hollywood, Florida. Fascinating. What is schus? Schus to be here to give a shir. So I'm going to discuss a topic since we just started saying the same Talmud Racha. You just started saying the same Talmud Racha. I already started a month and a half ago. I started saying the same Talmud Racha on Friday. I discussed the case of what happens if a guy forgets on Friday afternoon and he only remembers after Shkia. Sure enough, this week I davened in a shul Friday night, speaking in the shul, and after davening, the Rav comes over to me and asks me, what's the halacha l'maisa if a person forgets the same Talmud Racha on Friday afternoon and he only remembers on Shabbos? Because that's what happened to one of the people in the shul. So certainly it happens. Certainly it's a common case, and we'll try to discuss it. And there's many variations of this case that come up, and we'll try to discuss what the halacha l'maisa is. Clock in the right place. The Gemara says as follows. I'll try to read through with the Gemaras and the Tesis and the Halacha and come out Halacha l'maisa. So the Gemara starts at the top. Torah Rabbanan Tov le'yispal mincha b'erev Shabbos yispal b'nel Shabbos shtayim. Tov le'yispal mincha b'Shabbos yispal b'letzoi Shabbos shtayim. Shachol Malcha b'Rishayim v'inu Malcha b'Shniya. Hivla b'Shniya v'hivla b'Rishayim. Chos b'Rishayim. Shniya also le'Rishayim le'also. The Gemara says as follows: if a person did not daven on Friday afternoon, mincha, so the halacha is he has to make it up on Shabbos. That's the regular halacha of the Shlumin. That after you finish, if you did not daven a tefillah, and the next tefillah you should daven a second time to make up for the one that you missed. The question of the Gemara is: let's say it happened on Erev Shabbos. On Erev Shabbos you daven a Shemona Esrei of a weekday Shemona Esrei. On Friday night, you're davening a Shabbos Shemona Esrei. Can you use a Shabbos Shemona Esrei to make up for a weekday Shemona Esrei that you didn't say? And the Gemara says, yes, you could. And the Gemara says the same thing applies. If you didn't say Shemona Esrei on Mincha of Shabbos, so you missed the Shabbos Shemona Esrei, now you want to make it up on Matzah Shabbos. Matzah Shabbos is a weekday Shemona Esrei. Can you use a weekday Shemona Esrei to make up for a Shabbos Shemona Esrei? Says the Gemara, again, yes, you could. Exactly which one do you say is the topic of discussion of the Hemshech of the Gemara. Taisus over here points out, and he says, Kasav Rabbeinu Yehuda, the second line, Kasav Rabbeinu Yehuda, Tov le'yizker eshchedish b'mincha, lo yispal lo'id b'layla, lo yispal lo'id, and yikfar yispal kol atvilas mincha mi'goyd yod. Levad eshchedish le'yizker, im kein ein merveach klum, yachzav yispal, matzor eshchedish. Early Yasser, tefillas eshchedish, yudches, kfar yispal. He says we have a different case. What would be, says Taisus, in a case where it's Rosh Chodesh and you forgot during Mincha, you forgot to say Yalav Yom. So you davened. It's different than the case of the Gemara. In the case of the Gemara, you didn't even daven. In this case, you davened, but you left out an integral part of the tefillah that you would have to go back and daven another time. You forgot about it, and the only time that you remembered was already after the fact. It was already nighttime, and it's not Rosh Chodesh anymore. Question is, can I daven a second Shemona Esrei to make up for the Shemona Esrei that I should have davened had I remembered before Shkia? I would have davened the Shemona Esrei another time to make up because I left out Yalav Yavai. can I daven after Rosh Chodesh to make up for that Shemona Esrei? So says Taisus B'Shem Rabbeinu Yehuda, no, you can't. Why? Because it's different than the case of the Gemara. The case of the Gemara, you didn't daven at all. So even though you're going to daven on Shabbos a different Shemona Esrei than you should be davening that you missed, but you need to make up a Shemona Esrei. You didn't daven the whole Shemona Esrei. You got to make up the Shemona Esrei. So in this case, in Hanabi, you're allowed to daven, and you should daven a Shemona Esrei on Shabbos to make up for the Shemona Esrei that you missed. However, when it comes to Rosh Chodesh, that's not the case. On Rosh Chodesh, you daven Shemona Esrei. You left out one part. You left out the Haskaras Mein Amara, the addition that you were supposed to put in for Rosh Chodesh. You left out the Alviyah. So you're right, you should have davened another time. But now what are you going to do Matzah Rosh Chodesh? After Rosh Chodesh, what are you going to do? You're going to say a Shemona Esrei? You already have a Shemona Esrei. You're not going to say Alviyah. So the Alviyah that you missed, you're not going to make up. And the Shemona Esrei that you said, you already said. So there's no reason to do it.
What happens if it's 2 days Rosh Chodesh?
If it's 2 days Rosh Chodesh, excellent. Great question. 2 days Rosh Chodesh, then you're safe. If you're 2 days Rosh Chodesh, then you're safe because you could say Yalav in the second one. Excellent. Then you could say Yalav in the second one. But we're talking about a case where it's either on the second day of Rosh Chodesh or the first day of Rosh Chodesh, and there's only one day.
Why is one considered that you didn't daven and one considered that you did daven? Why is one weaker than the other?
So in the case of the Gemara, great question. At the end of the day, L'maisa, both of them, you're mechuyev to daven again. So in the case of the Gemara, you didn't daven a Shemona Esrei. Here you did daven a Shemona Esrei. So there's definitely a difference. The question is, what's a Shemona Esrei that you didn't say everything that you should say? That's what we're going to get to in a minute. Excellent. We're going to get to that. That's the main point here. Taisus at the end brings down Rabbeinu Alfasi.
יש הבדל כשאומר 18 בראש חודש והוא לא אומר עלי ביום, אז הוא לא יתפלל 18. הראיה שצריך לחזור, זה סימן זה לא נחשב שהוא יצא ידי חובה של מנחה יצא ידי חובה של
He's asking, someone that davens Shemona Esrei and it doesn't say Yalav Yovoi. So it's not just that he didn't say Yalav Yovoi. If you didn't say what you have to say, you didn't daven Shemona Esrei. That's really the question that you're asking. That's what you're asking.
Who said it's considered like you didn't daven? You have to add on Shemona Esrei.
You didn't daven. Who said it's considered Esrei? You didn't daven. Who said?
I want to ask a question. Is it called a bracha levatala? All your brachas?
You hear the question? You hear the question? You have any words about this question? Are all those 19 brachas considered bracha levatalas?
Of course not.
Why not?
Why not? It is a Shemona Esrei, it's not a Shemona Esrei?
No, if you didn't
I want to tell you a funny case that happened to me. This happened to me 23 years ago. I was davening by Rabbi Yashiv on Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah is a special day for tefillah. Davening by Rabbi Yashiv by Hoshana Rabbah, and I was davening, I think, for a shidduch, and I said a lot of bakashas at the end of the Shemona Esrei. And I was davening for a bunch of different things. And I finished Shemona Esrei. Oh my, I forgot to say Al Yomei. Now I really wanted to get Rabbi Yashiv's lulav and Esrei. That's what everybody they would stop after Shemona Esrei, before Halal. Everybody would take Rabbi Yashiv's Esrei, make a bracha, and then they would go. Now I had to daven another Shemona Esrei. So I davened another Shemona Esrei, and I didn't know, I wanted to say all the bakashas at the end. Do I have to say all the bakashas again? Because I didn't have in the first Shemona Esrei? Or my first Shemona Esrei counted?
Why does it have to do with Shemona Esrei? Your
There's a
bakashas.
special, you can daven whenever you want, wherever you want. But there's a special Indian of davening during Shemona Esrei. You're considered Oymin Lifnei HaMakom, you're mamish davening to the Baruch Hu in a different way than the rest of davening. So I wanted to know, I wanted to stick it in. At the end of the day, I didn't stick it in because I wanted to get Rabbi Yashiv's lulav and Esrei. I was the last guy to get it beforehand. I quickly made a bracha on it and shook it and gave it back to the guy and realized that I forgot to turn the Esrei over. Now what do I do? Oh.
He's still married.
This is all part of this question. Is it a Shemona Esrei or is it not a Shemona Esrei? If it was a Shemona Esrei, so you daven next Shemona Esrei. If it's not a Shemona Esrei, so it's nothing. Not that it was nothing. Any tefillah that you say to the Baruch Hu is a tefillah that works. Especially during Hoshana Rabbah, especially. We'll get to it. Tosfos says.
So, Grad, I saw B'Shem Reb Shlomo Zalman. I think it was Shlomo Zalman. It's not a bracha levatala because you're not doing it levatala. You're doing it because you're supposed to daven Shemona Esrei. Grad, you forgot Yalav Yavi. So even if you're not over, that's not the Isser bracha levatala.
Excellent. Very nice. Shlomo Zalman says that you said a bracha not for no reason. You said it because you were davening Shemona Esrei. You made a mistake then, and you didn't say what you were supposed to say, but the bracha wasn't levatala. Taisus brings down that Rav Alfasi says not that way. We're going to skip the bottom of Taisus. Taisus says, Miyu Rav Alfis. The first word on the line is Nispalo. It's about halfway down the Taisus. Miyu Rav Alfis, loy mashmakim. Dafilu heicha de'ina marviach klum matzak l'spalo pa'acheres. Rav Alfasi says, not that way. He says that even when you're not gaining anything, you're not saying any more than you said beforehand. Nevertheless, you have to say another Shmoneh Esrei. I'm not going to read the entire thing, the whole raya. It's a little bit of a difficult raya, that's the truth. But it's a case where you're not gaining anything. You're just saying you said the Shmoneh Esrei out of order, and he says you still have to daven another Shmoneh Esrei, even though you're not saying any more in the second Shmoneh Esrei than you said in the first Shmoneh Esrei. You must repeat Shmoneh Esrei. So now, what's the machlokes? What's the machlokes? He says you do have to say Shmoneh Esrei again, and he says you don't have to say Shmoneh Esrei again. What's going on over here? So it could be that it has to do with what is the tefillah of Tashlum. The tefillah of Tashlum that I'm davening. Is it a special tefillah that they said, if you missed the tefillah, you got to make up a tefillah. You missed the tefillah, you got to make up a tefillah. Or is it no, you're trying to daven that tefillah again. If you're trying to daven that tefillah again, so that's what Rabbeinu Yehuda says. You're trying to daven that tefillah, you can't. That tefillah you already daven, and the Yalav Yav you're not adding. So then you can't daven it again. However, the Rav Alfasi says, no, you're not trying to daven that tefillah again. You missed that tefillah, you missed it. It's finished. Chazal say that if you missed the Shmoneh Esrei, we'll give you the ability to say another Shmoneh Esrei. But not that you're going to make up that Shmoneh Esrei. You're not making it up. It's tashlumin that you're allowed to daven another tefillah. But it's not that you're making up that Shmoneh Esrei. So therefore, who cares that I'm not anything else? That's theoretically what we could have said. But if we look at Rabbeinu Yehuda says clearly what the machlokes is. And this is really what all the points that was mentioned before him. This is on, it says Memches on the top. Mizeh Atam, it's the bottom left paragraph. Bottom left paragraph. Mizeh Atam, Oyrim Gam King. Shim Tov Eloi Hizkir Shoesh Chodesh B'Mincha V'Eloi Nizkir B'Yoyim Einem Esbal B'Erev Shtayim. Says Rabbeinu Yehuda that this is the reason why they say, that's Rabbeinu Yehuda, the first Shlita, that says that if you didn't daven Rosh Chodesh, you didn't say Yalav Yav, then at night you don't say another tefillah. Einem Esbal B'Erev Shtayim Acha Shel Arves V'Acha Shel Mincha. You don't daven two Shmoneh Esreis. Shekivan Shespal Kvar Shmoneh Esrei. And the only reason you're going back is because you missed Rosh Chodesh. The matay eles achar shavar Rosh Chodesh l'spal b'macheres. Kivan she'eni maskir Rosh Chodesh achshav v'shmoneh esrei kvar espal loisam. This is what Rabbeinu Yehuda said. What are you gaining? What are you gaining to daven another Shmoneh Esrei? The Shmoneh Esrei that you daven, you already daven. And the Yalav Yav, you're not saying. Avol Chachmei Provinzo, that province is like Rabbeinu Alfasi. Oimrim, the Kivan Shebo Isa Tefillah Lo Yotzi Yidei Chiyuv, Shelo Yispal Isa Kedino, Kimi Shelo Yispal Klal Dainin Olei. Say the Chachmei Provinzo that if you didn't daven in the way that you're supposed to daven, like was mentioned over here, then you didn't daven. It's not that you daven the Shmoneh Esrei and you didn't say what you have to say. You didn't. Kimi shelo yispalo klal dainin olei. Mispalo shtayim le'erev. Va'avol mishikvar Rosh Chodesh. Ve'inu maskir inu Rosh Chodesh b'tefillah. Even though you're not gaining anything, it doesn't make a difference. You didn't daven. If you didn't daven, you got to daven another Shmoneh Esrei. It's not that you davened and you didn't say Yalav Yav. Davening without Yalav Yav is that you didn't daven. How do we pass Kenalach L'Maisa? We do go back. We don't go back. Umari Harav, this Rabbeinu Yehuda was written by the Talmud of Rabbeinu Yehuda. So every time that he says Umari Harav, he's referring to Rabbeinu Yehuda. My Rebbe, Dr. Rachman Porger, that was I was saying Shlita those days. Hayim Supik was that. Vayoimer Shanochim Latis Min Asofik Shispal Eisel Erev Bateris Nadal. Ve'ein Tzarech Lechadash Bodavar. Even Shum Ispal Eisel Erev Asofik, Hishem Allah, we should Tzarech Las Ispal Eisel Erev. Ve'ein Chochidish Golem Mizan. Says Rabbeinu Yehuda, I don't know what to do. Should you daven another Shmoneh Esrei? Should you not daven another Shmoneh Esrei? So he says, daven misafik. Daven misafik. You're always allowed to daven at Tfilas Nadav. You can get up in the middle of the day and daven at Tfilas Nadav. Say, I want to give you a Hakadosh Baruch Hu, I'm giving you Nadav. I'm davening. You're not supposed to do it unless you could really be mechab. That's when now you don't do it. But any time that a person has a suffix, then he could do it. So says Rabbeinu Yehuda, you should daven misafik.
What does it mean? What's the
So the halacha
chiddush?
is that anytime that you're davening in the dava, the halacha is you're supposed to be tzarech lechadash beidava, like Mora says. If you just want to daven another shmoneh esrei, you just daven shmoneh esrei beforehand. That's why you daven another shmoneh esrei. So the halacha is tzarech lechadash beidava. You have to have a reason to daven another shmoneh esrei.
You need then.
So what's lechadash beidava means that you have to daven for something that you didn't daven beforehand. Some people hold that it's only if something happened in between that causes you to daven. You stubbed your toe and it hurts you, Hashem, please help me, and you lie down on the Shmoneh Esrei. Hashem. But Tzarech Lechadash Beidava means that you have to have a reason to daven another Shmoneh Esrei. That's to be, so usually the reason is, I'm going to daven for something that didn't daven beforehand. Here it says, Rabbeinu Yehuda, Tzarech Lechadash Beidava, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to say a chiddush. Because Ein Lecha Chiddush Gadol Mizeh, you have another reason to daven without saying a new chiddush. The very fact that you have a suffix where you say you're not, that's the biggest necessity for you to daven another time. You have no bigger reason to daven than this.
Do you have to have kavanah? Like
You have to have
regular?
kavanah.
No, like regular tefillas nadav that you're not allowed to daven. And if yes, then it's not halacha l'maisa.
No. It's not a It is a lot. It is a lot.
So zayta, it doesn't say you
You should
can't.
definitely be mechavan as much as you could, certainly at least the first bracha.
There's the Nadav on Shabbos?
Is there Nadav on Shabbos? There's no Nadav on Shabbos. There's no Nadav on Shabbos. Excellent. There is no Nadav on Shabbos. This eitzah does not happen for Shabbos. So if we're be before Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, and then Friday night was not Rosh Chodesh, you would not be able to daven.
Also
Because you're not have also Musaf. Excellent. Also Musaf, there's no Nadav. Excellent. Happy passing a level myself. So we have the Mechaber over here. The Mechaber over here says. In Sifyud Aleph, Tov and Mincha Shal Shabbos, V'Spal Shmoneh Esrei, V'Hizkir Shal Shabbos. We're going to get back to Chaim in a second. Tov and Mincha Shal Shabbos, V'Spal Shmoneh Esrei, V'Hizkir Shal Shabbos. V'Spal B'Maitzir Shabbos, Shtayim, V'Einu Mavdo B'Shniyah. V'Spal Oisa B'Teres Nadav. V'Einu Tzarech L'Chadash B'Davar. Hu Adinim Le'Hizkir Yalav Yaveh B'Mincha Shal Rish Chodesh. Says the Mechaber, the halacha which is exactly straight out of Rabbeinu Yehuda, Ein Tzarech L'Chadash B'Davar, the halacha that's a suffix. Therefore, if Lo Yizkir Yalav Yaveh B'Mincha Shal Rish Chodesh, the halacha is that you daven a tefillas nedava, and you don't have to be Chadash B'Davar. That being the case, what would happen when it comes to the scenario that happened on Friday? A person forgot to say the same Talmud Lebracha. If you didn't say the same Talmud Lebracha, you got to go back and daven another Shmoneh Esrei. So now what happens if it's Friday night and you're not going to be saying the same Talmud Lebracha? So Shmoneh Esrei, you already davened beforehand. The same Talmud Lebracha, you're not saying now. Do you have to go back or do you not go back? We have the same machlekes, says Taisus Lavera. That according to Rabbeinu Yehuda, then there's no reason to go back. According to Chachmei Provincia, you have to go back. What do you do in this case? The halacha is you should daven tefillas nadav. When it comes Friday night you can't daven tefillas nadav. So you're stuck. So you're stuck.
Moginavas maybe.
What's that?
Moginavas maybe.
Maginovis maybe. Then you're certainly not saying anything that's
You don't know. You listen to the shots.
It's with the shots, if that's considered a Shmoneh Esrei.
Right, it's a shayla.
It's a shayla. Comes
No, but it comes out. Lamaisa, you should do it because
if
maybe.
you're stuck, hold on, we'll see. Comes along Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, Chedush Reb Chaim Agrach, and he says a great chiddush. Says Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, Brachas Daf Chavav, V'Shachach V'Lo Yomer Tal Matar, V'Mincha B'Erev Shabbos. In our case, where a guy forgets to say the same Tal Matar in Erev Shabbos, the Adin de Mispal Arv Shtayim, he's supposed to daven Arv twice. V'after ba'arvis lo yazkir Tal Matar, even though you're not going to say Tal Matar, for Hikshu Taisus. Taisus already says, B'shachar v'lei mi'alav yovei, ma'moyel mashi spal Arv Shtayim, kimich achshim k'vayin Rosh Chodesh and mi'alav yovei. What's it going to have to daven another Shmoneh Esrei? Ulam! Says Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, Ulam! Betal ומטר אין להקשיס קין, משום betal ומטר הוא בסדר התפילה. כשלא אומר, אבי משנה ממטבע שטבו חכמים, וכאילו לא יספל כלל. אבל יאללה ויאללה אין רק חייב אזכרי, ולא יאללה כי לא יספל. רק שחייב לספל שניים כדי שיעסק יאללה ויאללה. על כן שפר מקשימה מהניק שיספל 4 שניים. Says Reb Chaim that there's a big difference between Yalav Yavai and the same Talmud Levracha. Yalav Yavai is something that you interject into a bracha. But it's just a haskara, it's something that you mention because it's Rosh Chodesh. But it's not part of the actual bracha. It's something you stuck into an existing bracha. Therefore, if you didn't say it, your Shemona Esrei is still a good Shemona Esrei. Just you forgot to say Yalav Yavai. So it could be that you have to make it up because you didn't say Al V'Yavai, but you didn't ruin, there's a tzad, Rabbi Yehuda says this, the Chacham Vinci says there's a tzad, that you didn't ruin your original Shemona Esrei. You had a good Shemona Esrei, you just didn't add what you're supposed to add. However, when it comes to the same Talmud Levracha, that's part of the bracha. Baruch Aleinu Hashem B'Ginas Shnazah, it's Veskom and Yisrael Salateva, the same Talmud Levracha, Al Pnei Adam, it's part of the bracha. It's not something which you're interjecting, it's part of the bracha. If it's part of the bracha, and you didn't say the bracha like you had to say it, you didn't daven Shemona Esrei properly. For sure, everybody's going to agree that in this case you have to daven again.
Why could you
so
do it by Shemei
the whole case, 1 second, the whole case that we told you that you should daven in the dava, and which you mean on Shabbos you can't daven in the dava. That's only if you had a suffix. Because there one Shlita says like this, and one Shlita says like this, one Shlita says you are Yitzchak, one Shlita says you aren't Yitzchak. But over here he says everybody agrees you weren't Yitzchak. So you're for sure mechayiv to go back. Even though you're not going to be saying the same Talmud Levracha, you have to make a Shemona Esrei because you didn't daven Shemona Esrei. Here, everybody's going to agree.
So why by Shemei Tefillah you could put it in over there?
Excellent, bang, you got it. Frick, between Pesach Frank, he says it can't be that it's part of the lashon of the bracha, because if I forgot to say the same Talmud Levracha, what do? I say it in Shemei Tefillah. In Shemei Tefillah, it's not part of the bracha. I just interjected. But I see from there that it's not really part of the bracha. Because you don't have to say Nebarach Aleinu. If you didn't say Nebarach Aleinu, you say Nishmak Aleinu. Not only that, there's a big chiddush. What does an American do when they come to Eretz Yisrael? Do they say Baruch Aleinu from Zayin Mar Cheshvan, or do they say it from 4th of December? It happens every single year in Bayarchik Kala. There's always a question, who should daven for them in Bayarchik Kala? Because they're Americans, they're in Eretz Yisrael, and it's always after Zayin Mar Cheshvan, before December 4th. What do they do?
אבל יש לך חלק, ברכס השולים הייתה כאן. חסר ותן תרבות ולבוכו, תגידו שמעת אפילו. אבל לא חיסרתי, לא היה שינוי מטבע של טוב החכמים. כי ברכס השולים אמרתי כאן, לא חיסרתי כאן ברוך.
יפה מאוד.
יאללה ביום חיסרתי.
יפה מאוד. בדיוק. יפה מאוד. We're going to bring that at point. Says Reb Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, he says, Lechatchila for Americans, what they should do in Eretz Yisrael, Lechatchila say it in Shmak Aleinu. If you're not supposed to say it in Baruch Aleinu, so you didn't say it. And if you are supposed to say it, you said only Shmak Aleinu. So we see that there's no problem. The Baruch Aleinu is a good Baruch Aleinu. And if you didn't say the same Talmud Levracha, you didn't ruin the bracha. You could interject it somewhere else. Says President Frank, so again, it's not part of the bracha. And you didn't ruin your Shemona Esrei.
Loi Reb Chaim, what's with Mashav Ruach Meir Goshen? Is that part of the?
So there's no way to make it up.
What?
There's no way to make it up. Okay.
No, but the question is if it's part of the Matbeya or no. So then you have to go back like Hamelach HaKadosh. It's probably not.
That
maybe it is the
Matbeya. Once it's part of the Shemona, part of the actual bracha, it will become part of the
Matbeya. So if you forget Mashav Ruach on the first day of Pesach, and they're doing
so you can have the
the
same
other
question.
way.
Very good. Very
The
good.
other way.
Excellent. So the Rav asks me after Friday night this past week, he says, how do we paskin? Do we paskin like this Reb Chaim or not? So I said, Tzip Pesach Frank says not that way. So he says, Tzip Pesach Frank is chaylik on Reb Chaim, and learned this and how to understand the Shemona Esrei, he wasn't so sure. The question is, how does the Mishnah Berurah paskin? Does the Mishnah Berurah give us a gilui with regard to this question? So look at the Mishnah Berurah. So I told him, I said, yeah, here's the Mishnah Berurah here. Kov Ches, Sivkot Lamed Hey. Read it and be medayik it well. Listen to the Mishnah Berurah. It says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot Lamed Hey. It's short, 1.5 lines. Yalav Yavai. If a person doesn't say Yalav Yavai, then he's got to daven again at night. Tfilas Nedarim. B'diyuko nokat Yalav Yavai. He specifically chose Yalav Yavai as the thing that you forgot. Here's not talking about a Friday night. He's talking about a regular case where a guy forgets. Dim shochach talu motar, oy mashav ruach b'Shabbos v'Rosh Chodesh b'mincha. So if you forgot talu motar, or you forgot mashav ruach b'Shabbos v'Rosh Chodesh b'mincha, talu motar is obviously not b'Shabbos. Talu motar kama, or you forgot. Or you forgot mashav ruach even on Shabbos v'Rosh Chodesh. Or you forgot anything else that you have to go back for. The kuli alma yispal b'Erev shtayim. Here, there's no question: do you have to daven a second time or not? Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you forgot Yalav Yavai, that's where the Mishnah Berurah had a special chiddush. Do you have to daven betfilas nadav? Let's say a regular case that a guy forgets the same talmud levracha, and now he wants to daven a second time at night. You forgot by mincha the same talmud levracha. He wants to daven another Shemona Esrei at night. He says, of course you have to daven another Shemona Esrei because you're going to gain the same talmud levracha. You didn't say the same talmud levracha the first time, and now you're going to say it. It's only by Yalav Yavai that you're not going to say Yalav Yavai. That's only a question. But in the case of the same talmud levracha, you didn't say it the first time. You daven another Shemona Esrei. You are going to say it. And let's say I'm not going to gain the same talmud levracha. Let's say I'm not going to gain the same talmud levracha. Then I don't daven Shemona Esrei another time. Reb Chaim says that even if you're not going to gain the same talmud levracha, you have to daven Shemona Esrei another time, because you didn't daven the first Shemona Esrei. In the Mishnah Berurah, it's meduyik that the only reason why you have to go back and daven another Shemona Esrei if you got the same talmud levracha, only reason everybody's going to agree is because you're going to gain the same talmud levracha. Mashma that if you're not going to gain the same talmud levracha for whatever reason, then because it's a Shabbos, then in a Chanami, in such a case, it's meduyik from the Mishnah Berurah that you would not go back and say another Shemona Esrei. So l'chur in this case, in a Chanami, we would not have it's meduyik in the Mishnah Berurah like the דישיבת and Frank, not like Reb Chaim. That Allah L'maisi, he went and he said that you would not have to go back and say another Shemona Esrei.
So it's not all you're allowed to really, since on Shabbos you're really allowed to daven as well, why wouldn't you be allowed to say it with the same talmud to make it up? Shabbos,
That's a great question. Why can't I go ahead on Shabbos and say the same talmud levracha and make it up? So the truth is, this actual thesis talks about it. This thesis talks about that really a person does have a chiyuv on Shabbos to say all 18 brachas. Just like Yitrichois.
Tais talks about the other case. Tais talks about the backwards case.
What's that?
Tais talks about the backwards case.
Right. Tais talks about the backwards case. But we just see that that's such a thing that really on Shabbos you also have a chiyuv to say all the 18 brachas. Chazal were matriach and says Tais is never, you don't have to. So why can't I go ahead and say a different bracha? The pashtas is because since once Chazal were already misaking that this is the matpei of the bracha, then in Echanami in such a case we would not tell you to make do daven a different type of davening and not. Now, just with regard to this, that's basically what I wanted to come out according to Mishnah Berurah. Just once I put in these other questions, I'm going to take 2 minutes just to speak with other questions. My son asked me, it's less embarrassing to say it's my son's question, right? We got Ritzei, it was Yom Tiv, Shabbos, and you have to say Ritzei, and you have to say Yalav Yavai. If you didn't say Ritzei, you have to go back. You didn't say Yalav Yavai, you have to go back. Let's say what happens if the first time you benched, you said Ritzei, and you didn't say Yalav Yavai. So you have to say benching again. Then you said Yalav Yavai, and you didn't say Ritzei. So you have to bench a third time. Do you have to bench a third time or not? That's l'chora totally in the machlekes of Tosfos. Tosfos says that at the end of the day you have a benching and you're not gaining anything else. So here you bench twice. So for sure benching you have. Ritzei, you said. Yalav Yavai, you said. You just didn't do it all together. Is that good enough or not good enough? That's what Pashas.
Like Reb Chaim, it might be different. Ritzei might be a chelik of the matpei on Shabbos.
It's a big chiddush to say that on Shabbos it's chelik of the matpei. So the Shabbos is chelik of the matpei.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out.
Maybe it's a bigger chiddush to say that. Pashas is something that you interject. And not only that, the halacha is that if you forgot to say Ritzei, there's a special bracha that you're allowed to say to be mashlam in. So it's hard to say that it's a chelik of the bracha. But that would
It could be the Shabbos because you have to be maskeh shel Shabbos. Like if you daven 18 brachas on Shabbos, you have to daven again. The Achronim say
because you weren't
maskeh shel Shabbos. Could be that's the same brachas hamazon. If you weren't maskeh shel Shabbos, that's where you can make another bracha.
If you forgot
Is that chelik based? No. Chelik based. I just want to read one Mishnah Berurah, which it's very good. I'm sorry.
If you forgot 3 times, you say chazaka, the person is not there all the way? Huh? So you know,
Yes,
no,
you
listen,
should stop.
Stop?
You should definitely stop.
No, it's not.
That's one of the pshatim.
Stop while you're ahead.
This is
That's
tefillas.
Mr. Brewer talks about when he says over
Every
here.
guy's supposed to it's amazing. It's called amazing. Mishnah Yeshua says.
The halacha is that if you call yourself after over Yerushalayim, there's a special bracha that you say. You can walk him in the Nisker ad la'achar shepasach ba'atayim ha'bitiv. Choiz l'rish b'reis b'rnas hamazon b'shvil ha'skor shel Shabbos. If you didn't say ritzei, then you have to go back. He says, if you have to go back, he says, Atzarach loymar oid pam gam yal v'yavai. Let's say a person said yal v'yavai, and he didn't say ritzei, so he has to go back. So when you say ritzei, you have to say yal v'yavai again as well? He says, yes. The birchas hamazon arishin nisbata legamri. This is the lashon of Mishnah Berurah. When you read mashma, then you would have to daven a 3rd time. You would have to say birchas hamazon a 3rd time. L'mais and the poskim say not to. They say that if you forgot, you should only daven. If you benched and you said ritzei, and you benched and you said yal v'yavai, don't bench another time. Don't bench another time. You're ritzei.
It could be Yal V'Yavai. If Yal V'Yavai is only Haysafa, so then Lav Dafka you have to daven the 3rd time.
Yal v'yavai is a safa then.
Oh, because you missed Lamais, so you didn't say Yal.
This last case over here, what happens in Rosh Hashanah? It was a case actually, somebody just sent me a sefer. The first question in the sefer is Shal's Tshuva sefer that he wrote. You have to go?
I just wanted to ask you.
And the question was, the guy didn't know if it was Rosh Chodesh. Is it better to say yes to Yal v'yavai or not to say Yal v'yavai? So, first of all, what do you do in the middle if you don't know what to do? So you're allowed to walk. And let's say you don't have a brain. The Allah has Mishnah Berurah Paskins, you're allowed to call somebody. You're allowed to talk. So you're allowed to call somebody and say what am I supposed to do? Is this Shemana saying? You're allowed to if you stop. And let's say you don't have any, you're on a plane. So you can't call. So what do you do? So it should be on your phone. But if it should be down on your phone. But the Allah, so he decided that he said that the Allah is you shouldn't say Shemana saying. Because if you say the wrong thing in the middle of Shemana saying, so then it could be that you win the Shemana saying.
Doesn't the Mishnah Berurah talk about a case?
Finish the entire Shemana Esrei without saying Yal v'yavai, and if you have to say Yal v'yavai afterwards, you say Yal v'yavai again. Now the question that's only l'chor if you understand that a Shemana Esrei without Yal v'yavai is considered a Shemana Esrei. But if a Shemana Esrei without Yal v'yavai is not considered a Shemana Esrei, you're not going to continue. It could be that it's not Shemana Esrei. How are you allowed to continue? L'chor should also be telling this machlekes the ma'isa of whether or not it's considered a Shemana Esrei or not. Well, the ma'isa b'pashas we do consider it a Shemana Esrei. The tefillas that you daven, there are tefillas. And they're considered tefillas in the middle of Shemana Esrei, and it's better to put your finger on the place and not get into the question in the first place.
My says that